Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take sources you're curious about and, well, we pull out the key stuff fast.
Get straight to the point.
Exactly. And today, we're looking at Berachain. It's a blockchain that's making a lot of noise right now.
Definitely hearing the name pop up more and more.
So our source for this is some clips from that Unchained YouTube interview with Smokey the Bara Chief. He's one of the founders.
Ah, okay.
Huh?
Smokey. Yeah, he's pretty central to the project.
Right. And our mission, pretty simple, figure out why Berachain's popular, what's actually unique about it, and, what's their bigger vision.
What are you really trying to build?
Yeah. So if you've heard the buzz and just want the quick download, the essentials, maybe some things you didn't expect, well, you're in the right spot.
Okay, so jumping in, what's interesting is Smokey's background. It's not your typical crypto founder story.
No, not at all. He mentioned science, engineering, even healthcare startups.
Yep, quite different. He said he got pulled into crypto around, what, 2015, 2016?
Mm-hmm. Saw smart people heading that way and knew an investor involved with the early Ethereum Foundation.
Right, and he went through the 2017-18 cycle. He called it, what was it, punting on meme coins.
Huh. Yeah, a pretty honest take.
Definitely. But he really got back into it seriously during DeFi summer 2019-2020. Said curve really drew him in.
And then a stint in VC before going all in on building Berachain starting early to mid 2022.
But the origin, you mentioned, it wasn't like a grand plan laid out from day one.
No, that's the kicker. He said it grew out of this NFT community, kind of adjacent to DeFi, almost accidental.
That community aspect seems really, really key. It sounds like the core problem Berachain tackles came directly from those early discussions.
Yeah, this idea that in most chains you've got this tension, right, between liquidity for apps and security for the network.
You have to choose where your capital goes. Stake it for security rewards or put it into DeFi protocols to earn yield there.
Why not both? That seems to be the fundamental question they asked.
Exactly. And they also saw issues with, these big ecosystem funds denominated in the chain's own token often just don't work out long term.
Right, they can be unsustainable. Plus, the feeling that many chains, beyond the tech, didn't really have fundamental value drivers for the apps built on them.
So the vision became, let the chain be the backdrop, almost invisible infrastructure.
And let the application layer be where the real value happens.
Which brings us neatly to proof of liquidity, POL.
Okay, POL. It's their big innovation. How does it actually work? He described it as a Sybil resistance mechanism.
Yeah, basically a way to prevent manipulation. But the core idea is linking liquidity provision directly to network security at the chain level.
So normally proof-of-stake rewards the inflation, could toast to validators, people staking the native token.
Right. But Berachain flips that. The rewards flow from the validators
to the applications, and specifically to the users, the LPs, providing liquidity in those applications.
Yeah, through this other token, the Beer Governance Token, BGT.
Yeah, BGT. Okay, and this is the crucial part. It's illiquid and soul-bound, meaning you can't just buy it or send it around.
Exactly. You can't trade it. You can't transfer it. The only way to get BGT is by providing liquidity to incentivize pools on Berachain.
So it forces participation. You can't just whale into it by buying up the staking token, which is called Bara, right?
Right. Bara is the liquid staking token like ETH or SOL. BGT is the reward and governance token you earn. It prevents someone just buying control of the reward flow.
And there's that burning mechanism too. You can burn BGT to get Bara.
But not the other way around. It's a one-way street. Reinforces that BGT has to be earned through activity.
Okay, so validators then. They have two roles. There's the normal staking, the B stake.
Yeah, that's staking Bara for basic security, determines how many blocks they produce. Standard stuff.
But then there's the BGT boost. This depends on how much BGT liquidity providers delegate to them.
Correct. The more BGT delegated to a validator from LPs, the bigger their share of the block rewards they generate.
So validators are incentivized to attract BGT delegation, which means supporting apps that LPs want to use.
Precisely. It's this feedback loop. Validator stake, B stake, times the BGT boost determines the total reward pie and how it's split among the apps and pools.
Okay, it's definitely a novel system, but new systems always raise concerns, right? Could early people just game it? Sybil attacks?
Yeah, Smokey addressed that. They have some safeguards. For one, the BGT boost isn't linear. It follows a logarithmic curve.
Meaning each extra BGT delegated gives diminishing returns to prevent massive centralization.
That's the idea. Discourage hoarding of boost power. And they also have this guardian council.
What's that?
It's like an oversight body. made up of external auditors, technical experts. They can step in and block potentially harmful governance proposals. Kind of a safety switch.
Like a check on pure token-based governance. Still decentralized, but with some expert guardrails.
Yeah, acknowledging that risks exist, but trying to mitigate the big ones.
Makes sense. Okay, another big choice. Making Berachain EVM identical, not just compatible. Why that specific level of alignment with Ethereum?
It really boils down to pragmatism, based on Smokey's points. The EVM, the Ethereum virtual machine, it just has the most gravity.
In terms of money locked up and developers who know how to build for it?
Exactly. He used the term Lindy. It's been around, it's proven, it's likely to stick around. Attracting that existing talent pool and capital is, well, efficient.
And just being compatible wasn't enough.
Apparently not. They found that even small differences when you're just compatible can cause headaches for developers. Tooling breaks, libraries don't work perfectly, analytics platforms need tweaking.
Friction.
Yeah, friction.
Yeah.
So identical means the execution environment, the opcodes, the EIPs, even L2 capabilities. It's basically a mirror of Ethereum mainnet.
Okay, so developers can pretty much copy-paste code and tooling.
Largely, yes. The main difference isn't the execution layer, it's the consensus. They use Comet BFT.
Right, we mentioned that. Faster blocks, single slot finality.
Sub 2-second blocks, yeah. But it comes at that trade-off of a smaller, more permissioned validator set compared to Ethereum's current proof of stake. Different security assumptions.
And this is all built on their own framework, the Polaris kit.
Correct. And interestingly, he mentioned Polaris is flexible. You could potentially build other types of chains on it, even like SVM chains.
Solana virtual machine on top of Berachain.
Yeah, he said some teams are actually working on SVM L2s on Berachain, which is pretty wild across VM ecosystem.
Definitely something to watch. Okay, let's shift to maybe the most visible aspect, the culture, the memes, the bears.
Yeah. You can't miss it. It's very distinct.
And it seems intentional. Smokey talked about chains needing to be more like brands now.
Totally. It's not enough to just have good tech. You need distribution, you need people to actually care, and fun apparently helps.
Making it less intimidating. He told that story about someone's family finding the testnet easy to use, not scary.
Yeah, that idiot savant culture he mentioned. Approachable, maybe a bit silly on the surface, but with serious tech underneath. It seems to work for onboarding.
Culture has network effects too, right? A welcoming vibe attracts more people.
Absolutely. And it all tracks back to those Bong Bears NFTs. That wasn't just branding slapped on later. It was the origin.
Right, starting with just 101 NFTs and that whole rebase mechanism.
Yeah, inspired by Olympus DAO, apparently, where holding certain NFTs got you more NFTs from later collections. It created this built-in game theory, got the community deeply engaged.
And that engaged community, they were the ones who basically came up with the idea for Berachain, pushing for solutions to the problems they saw.
That's the narrative. It was very bottom-up. The community identified the liquidity versus security issue, and that led to proof of liquidity.
Wow. Okay, so that community power likely helped with the launch too. They hit, what, $3.5 billion TVL in the first month?
Yeah, pretty explosive growth right out of the gate.
Yeah.
Smokey gave a lot of credit to this pre-launch program they ran called Boyco.
Boyco. What was that about? Not just a simple deposit for airdrop thing.
No, apparently it was more structured. Led by their head of DeFi, the goal was to actually build a functioning liquidity marketplace before the token generation event.
So matching application builders with potential liquidity providers ahead of time, using incentives and airdrop allocation promises.
Exactly. Get the supply and demand side of liquidity lined up. They had big names involved too, like Layer Zero, Stargate, Entendre Finance, plus a bunch of the DeFi apps launching on day one.
And that ended with $3 billion committed before launch.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Yeah.
And obviously more flowed in after launch, minus some market swings.
So having apps ready to go on day one, thanks to that longer development time in Boyco, was a big advantage. Users showed up and had things to do.
Definitely seemed to help bootstrap the ecosystem quickly. But the launch wasn't all smooth sailing. There was criticism.
Right. Let's tackle those. The VC allocation was a big one, 34%.
Yeah, Smokey was pretty upfront about that. He admitted they probably sold too much to VCs in the early rounds, especially seed.
Hindsight is 2020, I guess. Did he mention doing anything about it?
Yeah, he said they've actually been buying back some of that seed and Series A supply to try and reduce the overhang.
Interesting. But he also made the case that VCs bring value beyond cash, right? Connections, exchange help.
Strategic value, yeah. But he stressed the focus is still rewarding the community that actually built the value. It sounds like maybe the VC rounds happened before the community really exploded, hence the later course correction.
Okay, what about the launch price? Arthur Hayes famously called it out as too high.
Yeah, Smokey kind of sidestepped a direct rebuttal, but mentioned Arthur had reached out recently, maybe implying a change of heart. Who
Fair
knows?
enough.
But he also said, look, the team doesn't fully control the opening price on exchanges. Pre-market stuff happens. Their internal guidance was based on the last private round, a $2 billion valuation, but the market does what it does.
Focus on the long term, not the initial pop or drop.
That was the message. Then there was the staking issue. Community felt communication wasn't great, and private investors could stake early.
Right, that perception of unfairness.
Smokey explained it was a mix of things. Legal requirements from fundraising when L1 staking was standard for VCs, needing significant capital staked at launch for security, and just the technical design.
Practical realities, maybe?
Seems like it. He did concede communication could have been better and pointed people towards solutions like LSTs from infrared for community staking. He also noted their staking is kind of a hybrid model, more geared towards larger validator spools.
And what about circulating supply and inflation, fears of it being super high?
He clarified that, said initial circulating was around 22%, not some crazy high number, and yearly inflation is projected closer to 10%.
Which is the fuel for proof of liquidity rewards, right? Not just enriching stakers.
Exactly. It's meant to drive ecosystem growth via liquidity incentives. And he added that economic policy can always be changed later via governance.
Okay, so navigating those lunch bumps.
Yeah.
How's the general vibe now? Crypto sentiment changes fast.
He acknowledged the recency bias, for sure, but said their internal focus is on retaining the core team and builders, which he claims is strong.
And seeing good engagement at events, things like that.
Yeah, mentioned good turnout and positive feedback in Denver recently. Said they're now focused on second-order metrics.
Meaning?
It's like application revenue, how much value BGT is actually capturing, user retention, people using multiple apps. The stuff that shows real, sticky usage, not just initial hype.
Makes sense. So looking ahead then, what's the roadmap for this year?
Big one is the full rollout of proof of liquidity, taking off some initial training wheels, allowing more projects to set up those emission receiving vaults to get BGT rewards.
Should drive more activity, more apps trying to attract liquidity.
That's the expectation. More activity, new use cases, and hopefully better economics for BGT as those apps generate value.
And continuing that consumer barbell strategy, both complex DeFi and easy-to-use stuff.
Yep. Plus the launch of the first L2s, the Cub chains, he called them. Maybe Q2 or Q3.
Cub chains, okay. And enabling unstaking withdrawals, too.
Right, letting people take their stake bar out. And we should quickly touch on Honey, their stablecoin.
Ah, yes, Honey. Is it still that complex algorithmic model they first talked about?
Not currently.
Yeah.
Right now, it's simpler, basically a wrapper for USDC and, interestingly, PayPal USD. He said they hold a lot of PYUSD.
Huh. Okay, so just a stable unit of value for now?
Yeah, designed as a stable measure within the ecosystem. The longer-term goal is maybe evolving it into a METD stablecoin, aggregating different compliant stablecoins, and integrating it tightly into their core apps.
Got it. So, wrapping it all up, what's the grand vision? Where does Berachain see itself fitting in? Who are they building for?
Smokey used that phrase, a playground for infinite economic games.
Catchy. What does it mean in practice?
The idea is that proof of liquidity isn't just for DeFi. It's a flexible incentive mechanism. You could use it to incentivize activity in games, RWAs, prediction markets, anything really.
So, broaden the scope beyond just financial applications.
Yeah. They see this key-shaped growth, deep expertise in capital efficiency in DeFi, but also a really broad layer of diverse applications on top.
And the L2s, the Cub chains, will cater to different niches.
That's the plan. Maybe one for consumer apps, one for RWAs, one for high-speed trading or AI-specific scaling for specific needs. Plus, continued evolution on the main L1.
So attracting a wide range of builders and users, potentially doing unexpected things, that stuff out of left field?
Exactly. Keep the core strong, but enable lots of diverse experimentation on top.
Okay, so let's summarize this deep dive. Berachain's standing out with proof of liquidity, that novel mechanism trying to sync up liquidity and security.
Their EVM identical approach is a strategic play to tap into the biggest existing developer and capital pool.
The community and culture, starting with the Bong Bears, that's clearly not just fluff. It's core to their identity and growth.
Yeah, huge part of it. And they have an ambitious roadmap, full poll rollout, L2s coming, evolving Honey.
It really positions itself as this platform for, like you said, diverse economic games and experiments.
Yeah. trying to build something different. If you want to follow along, Smokey's handle is at Smokey the Bara on Twitter, and the project is at Berachain.
Good places to keep tabs.
Definitely.
All right, and maybe a final thought for you, the listener. How could these new kinds of incentive systems, like proof of liquidity, really change how blockchain apps get built and how we engage with them? What might these infinite economic games actually look like down the road? Something to ponder.
Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.